Today, I'm so happy that we get to interview an MSP in the Durham area, North Carolina. We met with John Snyder, the CEO, and Neelesh Patel, the president of an MSP called NetFriends. What's so cool about this interview is that, first of all, it's about two business partners who actually are great business partners. That they even say at one point near the end of the interview about how their partnership has been such a critical part of the success that they've been able to have. But this is a story of just regular dudes who had technical backgrounds who faced every challenge in the book that an MSP can face and how they kind of navigated through each one of those seasons. We talk about what happened in COVID. They had some big highs, some big lows. It was just a great interview. If you, especially if you're like me and you like to hear about people who might have gone a little bit before you and hear what they did wrong and what they did well, then today's interview is definitely for you. Let's do it. All right, we have John and Neelesh. My first double interview. You guys, thanks so much for sharing a hot mic and jumping on with me today.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Yeah, you guys, John, we met through LinkedIn.
Correct.
I think you DM'd me.
I did.
Yeah.
I slid right in there. And here we are.
This is actually, it's been something that's happening more and more, but if you don't mind, this might be the death of me that I'm going to say this, but will you tell me how did you guys get on this podcast?
Sure. Well, I crawled across broken glass like in Die Hard. It was amazing. Shots were fired. Now, essentially, there was we have a mutual acquaintance, maybe friend. I don't want to, make any assumptions here, but Jeff Newton was someone that I had connected with, met in person down at one of the conferences. It was GrowCon. Great guy, very charismatic. Incredible presenter. And so I'd been connected with him and following him as he was starting his journey. And then you, Brian, commented on one of his posts on LinkedIn, and it was really good. It was witty, it was impactful. And I was like, okay, that guy, I want to just follow him and see what he's saying. And you had a lot of videos you were putting up. They're very authentic. And so I just started following you. And I liked multiple posts that you had, but I think what really got us here, shameful plug here, was your book. Let me make sure I'm not covering it, but bought it on its first day out, and I read it, and it was great, and commented on that as well. And so I was doing everything I could to get your attention, Brian, and it finally worked.
Thank you for that. Thank you for embedding a bunch of attaboys for me into your story. So actually, there's a couple lessons in here. First of all, you should be commenting on people's content.
Yes.
Period.
100%.
A lot of people say that commenting is everything. I only comment on stuff that I think is worth commenting on. I don't comment on things just for it to be performative, which frankly can be very difficult. Here's another lesson. We're going to have a whole lesson turducken here because I've got a lesson within this lesson within the lesson, which is that I would love to scour my Sales Navigator. I've got all my saved leads, which are MSPs. Those are my leads. And I would love to engage with MSP content. The thing is, most of it is actually not written for engagement. It's like...
It's mostly informative.
Yeah, it's informative. And frankly, it's very derivative information or repetitive information. It's information that's not even fun to talk about. So it's like, here's a VR headset, or like Windows 10 end of life again. It's like, I don't want to talk about Windows 10 end of life. Thank you for the information, but I can't comment on your post. And if I'm somebody who's actively looking for opportunities to comment on your post, how much less likely is it that the people who you're trying to sell to are going to have any footing at all to get in to engage with your material? So there's the lesson. There's the lesson within the lesson right there is you should write things that people actually have a reason to engage with.
Yeah, and can I give you one more pro tip? Neelesh, I'll ask you to weigh in on this. We have someone on our marketing team who's really good at social media, Emily. She does something for both Neelesh and I on a regular basis. To tell about what Emily does.
Yeah, she finds wonderful posts on LinkedIn and she surfaces them for us with the little private Slack channel we have. and identifies them as something that the two of us are interested in and are either working on ourselves or trying to learn more about. And she'll just drop it in the DM or drop it in the channel. And then it's a race between John and myself to see who comments first.
That's right.
Nice.
It's
So
really effective. So it's not just that we want to create content that's commentable, but it's really important that you have your marketing team encourage you to comment and like and be seen by the people that you are trying to ultimately connect with.
Yeah. And the fringe benefit of that is that they are out there, your entire marketing team is out there looking at other posts and learning from how other people are posting and creating information or creating content. So it's just, we're not encouraging, stealing, but we're encouraging taking ideas and turning them into your own, right? So there's no brand new art, right? All art is stolen from some other place.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, we're already like 6 wisdom truth bombs into this thing. So you guys
We're
are
going to keep
crushing.
going too. We got more.
We haven't even told anybody who you are or what you do yet, and that's on me. But I want to hang on. I don't want to belabor this, but I want to punctuate this thought from before. You guys, so you saw me engaging with content, which wasn't what I was talking about, but thank you for the mention. You're right. I am creating my more visibility without even thinking about it by commenting something somewhere. And usually I comment if I think that it would be funny. That's why I comment, because that's what I want to do. But then you just sent me a DM and you were like, hey, we think we should be on your podcast. I've had a couple of people now who were like, I should be on your podcast and here's why. And I'm like, cool. And then we do a 15-minute meeting to make sure you're not crazy or just trying to sell Cutco or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you guys 100% belong on my podcast. So let me put it this way. I'm very good at boundaries, internet. If I don't want to talk to you, I'll tell you to stop talking to me. And it'll be very easy and cordial and it'll all be fine. I've had 2 vendors this week say, hey, we want to be on your podcast. And I'm like, cool, how does your little accounting reconciliation software help MSPs make sales? And they're like, well, because we can help them with their taxes. I'm like, great, thanks for sharing. I'm sure you're amazing, but I don't want to interview you.
Yeah.
Because we're a very specific podcast that does a very specific thing. I don't just want to talk to anybody who wants a hot mic. But you guys have a story, which is what I want to segue into, that I think is really relevant for the audience. So I want to talk to you about the sort of last 3-4 years of your MSP, but to set it up a little bit, just give us like the wave tops here. Tell us a little bit about what you do in the organization that you run.
Yeah. So I'll do that part because this is largely Neelesh's story because he oversees sales. I oversee marketing and other aspects of the business. But I'll give you the very quick send up of who we are. So Neelesh and I are partners, business partners of a Durham-based managed service provider. We've been here since 1998. We service a lot of small businesses, and we were late to the marketing and sales game because we had this amazing big customer, Duke University, Duke Medicine, that just let us coast without any marketing and sales for like 15 years. And it was like awesome on one level, but it didn't set us up for success when we naturally started to evolve out of them. So Neelesh, since 2018, has been really trying to build a sales process, a sales arm. We got HubSpot in early 2019, yada, yada, yada. Lots of different things came in, but came in pretty late. And so, yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Neelesh, so you can talk about what happened in 2022 and then what happened after that, because it was, yeah.
Talk to us,
sure.
Neelesh.
Yeah. Well, any questions or anything before that?
No, I want to know this. Yeah. So we had this big monster of a client.
Yeah.
When did that client and you part ways?
We had 36 purchase orders, contracts. The smallest was probably $4,000 a month with this customer in February of 2020.
Okay.
And then in
Right.
March, we had a lot fewer. And in July, we had 3.
Okay.
I don't know what happened around that time, but
So no warning, obviously, but so clear it was COVID related. It wasn't just like, hey, you guys are doing a bad job now.
we got labeled as premium IT, and they had to cut budgets by 33% across the board. So anything with the label premium,
Yeah, you were doomed. Okay.
we were doomed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Neelesh,
So we
talk to
went
me.
from we were providing managed services back then to Duke Medicine, but it wasn't called managed services back then.
Right.
So all we had, the terms were break, fix, or contract. That's what it was called. And so we found ourselves in 2019 moving from break, fix to managed services. And we had this huge meeting about it, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do to move into the next chapter. And I kind of put my hand up and said, I'll put on the sales hat. Let's see what we can do.
What were you doing before that? What was your role?
I was running operations. So I was vice president of NetFriends at the time. And I served as our de facto COO, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had the multiple teams where I was managing multiple teams. But so I shifted into sales and marketing. And then John actually took over managing operations more fully at the time.
Right.
He went back to managing operations, I should say. But the first thing we needed to do was figure out how to go from this abysmal, like single digit percentage of open rates for proposals that we were creating and supposedly delivering, right? And so what we were doing back then was everybody at NetFriends was a salesperson. So any tech that was going out to see a customer, they were effectively our salesperson.
That was at least the party line. Not
Right.
really sure that actually happened.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that was the party line. And so we brought in HubSpot. And because we brought in HubSpot, we were forced to think about a sales process. And it came with this side benefit of automation because it was really easy to create workflows. And so right out of the gate, we learned that we needed to create a process, and we also got to take advantage of automation. And I was able to take sales tasks off of individuals and put it on a smaller group of people, but mostly automate it. And we went from within a year, we went from single digit open rates to almost 100%, at least open rate. The win rate wasn't as high initially, but that's what we worked on for the next few
Right.
years.
One step at a time.
You solved the problem in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So this is interesting because I talk to many people who I'm like, hey, how's your sales process? Scale of 1 to 10. They're like 2. Why is it a 2? Well, we kind of wing it every time. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you need to put the tools in. And they go, I'm paying for HubSpot. So this is actually very rare that what I'm hearing is that you put in a tool and then you forced yourself to mature the processes up to be able to take advantage of the tool.
Yeah.
He built so many automation and processes on nights and weekends. He watched all the videos, talked to our account rep at HubSpot like all the time to get all the facts and things. I mean, you just hoovered up so many great pieces of information and then immediately applied them and tried it out. And the amount of build out, because HubSpot's a platform. It's not a package. And you had to build and build and build on that.
Yeah. I communicated with HubSpot so much that I started receiving swag from them.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were like, I'm all in. So you brought that sort of engineering operations brain of the curiosity,
right,
and the like, we have to fix this. And you saw sales as a solvable problem instead of this black box, which is kind of what it had been before. And that's something we observe too, as I observe when I coach executives, is when a function is misunderstood, it's usually misassigned, right? And so when you assign something to everybody, it's because nobody knows how to do it.
Right.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's really insightful. It's totally what happened.
Yeah. It's kind of like if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority, that type thing.
Right. And the truth is that you could tell an engineer, look for opportunities to submit, look for opportunities to sell hardware on your work orders and stuff. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure, John. Yeah, I'll get right on that. They're like, I'm here because this freaking idiot didn't plug in their printer. That's what's happening here today, And they drove all the way to Charlotte to plug in a printer, and they drove all the way back, and you're like, did you sell that? Did you sell them anything? Right? So not to say that can't work, because I do believe that you can make every employee a revenue generating employee. Actually, I think if you tool them and educate them right. But the point is that you didn't have a sales champion in the organization. So you were just kind of hoping that it would become this ubiquitous sort of responsibility. But then that changed when I want to ask you, like, what was that like going from are you a technical background or more of a management ops background?
I have a technical background. So I started off in IT. I went to UNC Chapel Hill and I used to work in the computer labs. But beyond that, I got the MCSC in 99. And then I went to work for a network consulting company in San Francisco during the .com bubble popped, and a couple of people recommended that I start my own company, and I started my own MSP out in San Francisco. So I would say I built the technical chops, and then almost forcibly I started building business chops at the same time. But, I was a one-man show for a long time.
Right.
So I was kind of forced to do both things.
And thank goodness North Carolina has amazing barbecue, so you came back.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I have an employee. Have I told you, by the way, anybody in the Durham area, have you guys ever been to Yonder Coffee?
Yonder?
Oh, never been there.
No.
Yeah.
There's a bar called The Daily, and there's a coffee pop-up in it called Yonder at The Daily.
Huh.
You should check it out.
We will check that out.
If you're coffee guys,
we'll send you
check-
photos.
Tell Caleb that Caleb will be there. Tell Caleb that I sent you.
Got
He
it.
flies
Awesome.
in coffee from all over the world. It's roasted 7 days. Within 7 days of being roasted, he's pouring it into a cup.
That's
From-
awesome. Coffee is a very important thing in our office. We have a blend that's created for us that comes in from Joe Van Gogh. It's got her name on the little package when it comes up on the coffee
Nice.
bag. Yeah, it's a very important thing here.
I love it. In my MSP, my owner used to say, our 25th full-time employee is going to be a barista. He's like, we're going to have a barista in the house all the time.
I mean, we're in budgeting season right now, so thank you for
Right. And I was like, I'm just going to walk up to the barista and order a coffee and then dump it in the trash and order another coffee all day just to give him something to do. Because it was such a stupid idea. Okay. Hang on. We're all over the map. So I hope you're not too bashful for a compliment, but there's something that, again, I think there's a nugget in here that we need to sort of tease out of this story before we continue, is that you're a tech guy and obviously you have some leadership qualities that you kind of keep rising to the top. That's clear. You're a tech guy, start a tech company, and then you're learning you have to manage and build a business around so that you're not the classic E-Myth technician, right? That is sort of a tradesperson that just didn't want a boss, and then that you never evolve out of that. You're like, oh, I got to take this more myself and all of this more seriously. So then you're cooking, and it's 2018. You said when you pivoted to sales, so you'd been doing this for 20 years. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
And you saw the writing on the wall, and you went, nobody here is selling. Nobody here knows how to sell, and I can't just bring in some young buck who's going to invent it for us. And that must have been kind of talk to me about that decision, even in the journey to be like, I'm going to pivot out of my area of genius and do this new thing that I don't know how to do.
He always crushes it, though. I mean, he if you can't tell, he's got a ton of confidence because he's always been successful. So I think that was part of the factor. It's like,
so you just knew
well,
you
sure,
could figure
why
it
not?
out, but still you're 20 years in, you have not cracked this code. 20 years is a long time to not have something figured out. And again, we don't have to talk forever about this, but I mean, was there like a moment where you realized I have to own this, or was it what was that like where you're like, I have to focus on this thing I don't know how to do until I know how to do it?
So it's important to note that I don't think anybody at NetFriends wanted to sell. So there's that, right?
Yeah.
Sales was looked upon as almost a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So everyone appreciated their the paychecks when they came through, but didn't really think about how those, how the paychecks arrived or the entire process. And having run my own business, of course, I was used to selling. That's how I got my customers. Right. And I never really thought about it as a process because it was just, it was kind of innate, and I was a small shop. And so even a small sale would make a big difference. Right.
Right.
The reason why I leaned into sales at NetFriends is because it was clear that we were not going to survive as a company, much less than as a managed services company, unless we went out there and intentionally made that happen. So what was happening before when we were mostly with Duke was deals were falling into our laps, right?
Yeah.
And they were all referrals. And as you know, referrals are fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
You just have to not say the wrong thing and
Right.
you win, right? And so that wasn't going to work here. And also the pipeline was drying up as well. We were seeing less and less referrals come through. And so I'm never one to shy away from a challenge. And I'm always going to be the one who will put their hand up, especially when nobody else is putting their hand up, because I mean, that is fun. That's exciting, right?
Yeah.
I tell my team, and I try to voice it as much as I can within the halls of NetFriends, if what you're doing here is not fun, then you should really think about doing something else somewhere else, right? Because
Yes.
first and foremost, you got to have fun. And for me, figuring out stuff like this is fun. And I genuinely just like talking to people, right? I have my own social anxieties around it, but
You're such an extrovert.
you know, I'm a closet introvert, I guess,
Okay.
or a closet extrovert.
I only
I know what you mean.
Tiniest closet ever. Yeah.
Well, that
Like a single cotton ball will fit in it if you push.
So you all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to own this function now. But let me ask, what were you guys doing, if you don't mind me saying, what were you doing in revenue ballpark at the 2018?
So we were about 7.5 million, but we saw that we had an existential risk with Duke. It was 2018. We knew that we had been told in 2012 that by the COO of Duke, I was in his office, he was doing this total power move, and he was like, 2 years, John, 2 years. You guys are out of here. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. I was like, but do you realize that for you guys to get us out, you've got to do, and I listed off a bunch of things. And I was like, he's like, I know, I'm the COO. And I was like, that's great. Okay. Those are all very hard things, and you're up against a tremendous amount of resistance. I was like, just so you know, 12 years prior, someone else told me the exact same thing, that we were going to be out of here. So I'm not trying to use hubris. I'm just trying to say it's really hard, and many other people before you have tried to get us out of here. And we're here because people want us here. We're here because we do good. Anyway, that was 2012. 6 years later, we knew he was still trying because he was still there. And we were like, they're going to figure out a way to get us out. Because Duke wanted all of in-house IT to cover all IT. And we kept making them look bad because we would adhere to SLAs. We would make sure that when we did a project, there was a review after. How do we iterate or improve? Ever happened with internal IT because they were the internal IT. They didn't need to do those things. Now, I don't want to smear them or anything like that, but there was a bit of like establishment hubris there.
Sure.
Back to us, though, we knew that the writing was on the wall and we needed to start doing something about it before like what actually ended up happened, where we lost them fast. Not in terms of months or years, but in weeks. Duke evaporated.
Right. Yeah. Which is the kind of worst nightmare, right? You're like, this is the worst thing that could happen to us. And so we want to be prepared. And then that happens to you.
Exactly.
And yeah, you could blame COVID, sure. But the fact that COVID happened to all of us and that there was nothing any of us could have done about it is actually a good data point, right? That first of all, you don't need a pandemic for your white whale to walk out the door. You don't need to do a bad job for them to walk out the door.
Correct.
It actually, at some point, an organization in many ways has a responsibility to evolve past their MSP or a fully managed MSP. It's, if their goal is to grow, as we know, right? If you go from the SMB market, well, they're drinking milk in the IT space, right? Like their maturity is very low and they need somebody to support them. They pivot to manage to mid-market, and all of a sudden, they're starting to chew a little bit of solid foods because now they've got some inside experts and they can co-manage. And then you look at enterprise. Name an enterprise that has a full managed service, 100% outsourced IT. I think that would be a bad way to run an enterprise.
Sure.
Yeah.
So point being that if you've got an org whose job or whose responsibility or whose goal is to grow, then they are going to evolve past you. Even if you do an amazing job helping them unlock those goals, there is a ticking time on how long you're going to have them as a client. So if you want your business to go longer than that relationship, you've got to solve this problem. But I want to fast forward a little bit. So this happens 2020. Talk to me about sort of, I think there was another big inflection point in 2022, was there not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll
talk
set
to me
this
about
up
that
very
journey.
briefly and you bring it home.
Sure.
So a competitor of ours fired their major salesperson. And this was someone who had 15, 18 years experience, somewhere between maybe 17 years is the exact number. But regardless, many years of selling MSP. We had gone up against this person. We knew they could sell. So we were able to snag them. And we were like, fantastic. So we take Neelesh's built process, and we take an industry-leading salesperson with great name recognition and great Rolodex who had also been released of all obligations because he didn't sign anything on the way out. Oh, we were like, we got the kindling, we've got the match.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We made sure that let's give him a name, Bob. So we made sure Bob knew that we were not trying to take active customers from the company he just left. Like that was a no-no.
Yeah, we said it can't be gross.
Yeah, it can't be gross. There's no way we're going to do that, right? So don't bring that to the table, please.
But take your skill.
Take your skill,
use
your
our
Rolodex.
process.
Sure.
Use a process. And so what he did essentially for the next year is he just took the governor off and, pedal to the metal, reached out to everybody and anybody who's been wanting to reach out. And along the way, it took him about a month of being at NetFriends to realize the difference in the quality of service that we provided compared to where he was before, right? And when he started to learn about how we solve IT problems, how we collaborate as a team, and how we treat our customers and our employees, he went all in, and he started reaching out to people he hadn't even thought about reaching out in a long time. And he started bringing in deal after deal after deal. Now, the process that we were using back then was, like John said, on top of the process that I had built. So we basically, I didn't take a back seat, but I allowed for Bob to be the professional in the room. And I took his advice, even though I was a supervisor. I was like, tell me where you think the process needs to go. What's missing from our process? Let's build it in. Let's do it. Let's not have you keep doing these things on a manual basis. Let's automate some of this if we can. And so we did that, and it allowed the velocity of sales to really increase. Frankly, I think we just kind of ripped through his Rolodex in the first year.
Yeah,
and we brought on so many sales.
And keep in mind, we had a huge setback in 2020, like everyone did. When you took Bob and you took Neelesh's process and you put them together in 2021, 2022, we completely bounced back to where we were before we had that catastrophic loss of Duke and other things. It was amazing. It was almost like watching a fruit desiccate and then rehydrate. It was amazing. So he really took us back. So by the end of 2022, I think the year of 2022, we grew 45%. Now it sounds really awesome, but we were like, we're back, baby. We're back to where we were before we lost all that at Duke.
Yeah. So we can cut this part if you want. It's totally fine. But talk to me in MRR or like number of deals. Like give me some specifics. How much did you close in those 2 years? Do you know?
Oof. I don't know. Actually, I don't know off the top of my head. But it was
over $200,000 of MRR.
Boom. Okay.
From
so you're
one sales guy.
One sales
Amazing.
guy.
Yeah. So that is at least 2x of a top performer.
Yeah. And I mean, okay. And you're talking large contracts?
It was all over the map.
Yeah.
It was a mix. He did find a lot of customers in our target customer profile. We were shooting for people with 25 to 100 seats. We're really shooting for that. And we're more of a local geographic place. We're looking for folks in North Carolina who want to have the optionality of coming to see us or us coming to see them. And so he was focused in on that, and he was finding really nice sized deals. I don't think he found a single whale, 100 plus, 200 plus seat client. It was just a lot of solid, customers.
stable MRR that's not going to walk out the door and make you go through another existential crisis, right?
Correct.
You're building a stable of clients that you can actually build upon. Okay, so it's working. Okay, so why do I feel like the other shoe's going to drop here? That happens for a couple of years, right?
That happens. Yeah, that happens for about a year and a quarter-ish.
Yeah.
And
So much I could say.
yeah, I think it'd be worth talking about what you were building in parallel, and I mean, frankly, your big sale that you had with the security services, that led to the drought being catastrophic, almost catastrophic, versus it just being a regular drought.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that one. So I
You
would
have 1 minute.
I know, right?
Right.
Yeah. Tick, 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 tick. So one of the things that happened during this time was Neelesh needed to focus a lot more on sales. I mean, even though he talks about like taking a little bit of a backseat and letting Bob, really drive the process and bend and tweak the process, I ended up taking on a lot of marketing duties, and then became, marketing really did fall under me. That's a whole other thing. We should have maybe a marketing segment if you want to go there. But to keep this on sales, I ended up getting sucked into a $6 million contract negotiation. And it was great. We won it. However, it was incredibly difficult and fraught, and there was a lot going on. And at the end of 2023, that customer that I had gotten that big win on got acquired. And we found out they got acquired in a press release. So we didn't have any news beforehand. In fact, one of our employees said, I saw this come across the newswire. This is bad, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about how Duke had the big rug pull on us. Well, this was another big rug pull because we had a 12-member team servicing this customer. And so, it was awful. So that was, we can unpack that further if you like, but that was my big kind of sales contribution in addition to the marketing. Is that what you wanted me to?
That is exactly. Thank you.
For
So I know that is a painful story to bring up,
Yeah.
and we can absolutely unpack it. I mean, you'll need a whole nother hour for it.
No,
but
I think that's, I want you to continue, Neelesh, but this is this is helpful for people to hear for a bunch of reasons. First of all, a lot of people right now are probably finding solace in the fact that they're hearing other guys who this happened to. I talk to MSPs, usually the ones who are talking to me, I see them in one of two positions.
Mm-hmm.
The wheels are starting to fall off of their big giant client, or their big giant client just left.
Yeah.
And so maybe I have a biased cross-section analysis of the market, but I have this paralyzing fear of dependence on client concentration risk.
Right.
In my MSP, I mean, we were much smaller than you guys. We were under $1 million when I joined my MSP, but 45% of the revenue was one client, and they were over 90% of the tickets.
Yeah.
Because they knew they had us over a barrel. There's just no other way to put it. And the guy was super nasty. And the first week I was there, I've told the story many times. I think it's even in the book, but the first week I was there, I literally didn't know what MSP stood for when I started, right? I had zero technical experience and didn't hold me back, by the way. But we had a tech going to the CEO's mother's house to install a floodlight in her driveway. Because we kind of had to. That was sort of the dynamic. That was the power dynamic, if you will. I remember it was like Friday, 4:15 p.m. They were down in the South Bay, and we were in the Inland Empire, which means Friday at 4, you have to drive all the way through Los Angeles. So we're probably talking 2.5 hours, right?
Oh,
and with an accident, you're probably talking 3 hours. Their Exchange server that we've been saying, this is going to die, this is going to die, this is going to die. Guess what? It dies, right? And this is like 25 sites all linked through this one Exchange server. And and the CEO's exact words were, I want a server by tomorrow morning. And I quote, you better not make a penny on this. We're like, what do you think we do for a living? You think we all just, am I your technical concubine? You just come in and like, tell me what you want. And like, we're not allowed to make any money. And that was when I told my CEO, we're firing this guy. And he was like, oh, he's half
Good
our
call.
revenue. I said, okay, well, we're firing him. We gave him a 90-day notice. And we said, in 90 days, we're not your MSP anymore.
Yeah.
Good. And 90 days was generous.
Yeah, right. Because we really did that because I told my boss, I can replace it. I can get new MRR. Not only did we replace it, we replaced it in probably 8 to 10% of the workload for the same amount of MRR. So I say that to say, like, now with, I get offers from Feel Good all the time. About once or twice a year, I'll do a consulting engagement, and I do it strictly to go to the gym and stay sharp and get beat up, because I never want to become the academic style intellectual whose information is 25 years old and it's not battle tested. It's all theoretical. I want to like get my ass kicked every year so that I have to keep being good at what I do. That's why I still take consulting gigs. But I've been offered many times like these really hands-on high engagement things that they're like, well, this could double my revenue. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not interested in getting the top line as high as I can, as fast as I can. I want a super stable, highly profitable, direct. I don't need a hockey stick line. I just need a really steep, straight line. You know,
That's some real business experience talking right there.
Yeah, right. Well, I did, especially these stories of what you're sharing. This has happened to like every MSP I know.
And it happens by degrees. I mean, this $6 million contract was with someone we had worked with for 8 years before we got to the 6 million mark. We had grown together, but we'd also like siblings. We'd started to get on each other's nerves. We had, you know, you leave the toothpaste down in the bathroom sink, and you know, your towel, you use my towel, and all that stuff. There was that going on, that dynamic. And so I think everyone who's an MSP, you don't land the big whale typically, and they're a jerk right out of the gate. What happened is there's maybe a leadership change, there's been growth, the two of you are together, but you've also kind of gotten old together and, you know, accustomed to each other. And that's what I see more often than not. And those are hard to quit for a lot of reasons. You've got history and all these other things. So it's not just about money. It's also about those relationships and ties and the difficulty in severing them. We all go through that, and it's very real. None of these are just on a spreadsheet somewhere. They're very personal stories. You know, a lot of times the owner themselves has done some pivotal thing, and part of their identity or narrative comes from, oh, I did this thing with that one customer. The very customer you're like, we need to.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do think it's an experience that you have to go through to build a robust managed services business that's going to survive through anything. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, you can't teach your kid to not touch something hot until they touch it. You know?
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
How do you explain the pain that you're going to feel unless they actually feel the pain, right? And nobody gets it, right? So it's the same thing about how people say, yeah, there's a point where you can't have too much money, you know, that there is a point, but most people haven't reached it, so they don't understand it, so they keep striving for it.
Right. And so then to them, it sounds like champagne problems when somebody goes, yeah, I work with this logo, but it's really tough. And they're like, whatever, I would do anything for that logo. It's like, well, that's what that person did. And now they're saddled, and we celebritize logos, don't we? Or we go, we could be the IT provider of Duke. No, I'm not talking any shame on Duke, right? Like that obviously was paramount to your guys' journey. And you probably, if you could go back, you would do that again, right?
Yeah. I mean,
or would you, I suppose?
There's always good things that come from those clients, and not just the struggle. You do have positives, the pros, cons, all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. The celebritizing a logo totally happens.
I'll give you an example of something really good that came out of working with Duke. You know how we talk about, you know, we're just an IT, we're not saving lives here. Well, guess what? There were situations where patients on the table, and sometimes we get called on, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we had to build a robust response system that required us to get back in touch with whoever it was calling within 10 minutes. And that's how we built our after hours critical call service, which is all within NetFriends. We don't outsource it.
Yeah, that was another reason the COO wanted us out. They also knew that there was some potential public catastrophe that we could have not replied to whatever after hours urgent call, and it would have been very difficult to explain why this was serviced by a third party Anyway, so yeah.
So I love that. Necessity being the mother of all invention, where sometimes you need to put a really hard problem in front of you, and you will rise to it.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have another
We're
client
all a lot
who does
stronger than we think.
Yes, and your body, your mind, your acumen, your attitude, your sense of self will adapt to whatever you put it through. That's an evolutionary fact, right? That's what exercise is you tell your body, you are not strong enough to perform what I need from you. Right. And you tell it that by making it lift something that's too heavy. Mm-hmm. And then your body says, understood. And it strengthens your muscle fiber. It doesn't create new muscle fiber. It makes it stronger. You have all the muscle fiber you'll ever have as a baby. And yet it gets stronger and it codifies these parts of your body to perform new functions. And mentally, it's the same way. Again, attitude, spiritually, emotionally, you can adapt and evolve. And let me just say this, that I interview a lot of people, and one of the trends that we see in successful people, it's to the point now where I can actually guess how successful people are from like 2 minutes of innocuous conversation based off of how they respond to certain questions that have nothing to do with what they do. But it's all about perspective that people carry about challenge and pain specifically. And someday I'll write another book about this because it's something I'm super passionate about. I was going through this scary thing and I was really worried about this potential opportunity. I was like, this could be everything I've ever wanted, but I basically was afraid that I wouldn't do a good enough job. What if I don't rise to the occasion? And they said, do you know the first trait of adventure is uncertain outcome? And when I pivoted it from the word risk to the word adventure, first of all, it gamified it. And second of all, it gave me a chance for this to be a part of my story instead of a landmine that I have to try not to step on the way to where I'm going. Now it becomes, well, adventure, there is the chance of reward, there's the guarantee of trial and tribulation, and there is the uncertainty of outcome. And those things make an adventure.
That is incredibly insightful, and you just gave me a new way to sell cybersecurity and risk management applications.
That's clutch.
Well, I keep hijacking for my own magical moments, but I haven't been letting Neelesh finish the story. We haven't gotten to 2022 yet, which we've been teasing.
Yeah.
So what happens with the sales guy? A year and a quarter, what happens now?
Yeah, tell us.
So Bob is crushing it. Rolodex is like hot. It's flaming, and like too hot to handle type thing. And meanwhile, John is coming in with this other opportunity that he just mentioned. And the unfortunate thing is when the Rolodex starts to run out, what ends up happening is the revenue that's coming in from this like $6 million deal, for a little while, it hides the fact that the other sales aren't coming in, right? Because the books kind of look great. They look really good, right? What's there to worry about, right?
And there's always a lull.
There's always a lull.
Sure.
Right? Don't worry about it. This happens in sales, Well, that lull lasted for a year and a half. Okay? But it didn't feel catastrophic. I mean, after a while, we're like, hey, the bell's not ringing. What's going on, And so slowly it started to dawn on us. And this is a lesson learned in business. And anytime you start something new up, you got to keep your eye on the ball. You have to have metrics that you're going to look at and make decisions by, right? And so the thing that made everything come to a head and create our Death Valley moment is a combination of anemic sales for well over a year. And then this like really bad breakup with this $6 million customer because it was so sudden and we didn't have any way to predict it was going to happen. There was no communication around it. And, the contract terms were not held to.
Not as airtight as
we thought, and the private equity firm stuck their lawyers on it, and we did not get what we should have because we were halfway through that contract. Okay, and so all of those things came to a head. By the way, we were doing so well that we built our company. At this point, we were what, 10 and a half?
Yeah.
10 and a half
we were
million?
certain we were hitting 15 in no short order.
Right. And so we staffed up to about 75 people, and we put all the pieces in place to be able to get to 12 to 15 million in short order.
In short order, yeah.
And
by the way, we don't do any mergers and acquisitions, so this is all based on organic sales. Things were going so well, we had started to say we need to be ready for the next leg of our journey. So
that's right. Yeah. And so we were faced with, what was it, like October of 23, September of 23?
Yep.
September of 23, we realized that we're going to have to make a major change in, frankly, practically everything that we did. Thankfully, the managed services portion of our business was rock solid, right?
Yep.
And so we weren't super concerned about, a lot of loss from existing customers. So we knew we just had to fix this like net new sales problem.
Okay.
And so September of 2023 is really, that's the point in the calendar where we decided that we're going to have to figure out what sales 3.0 looks like.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll interject a little bit to talk about what happened with Bob, because I think that is worth mentioning. So while Bob had really, he was like shot out of the cannon, like Neelesh already said, towards the end, when we were in this crisis, everyone in the company knew that we'd lost this major customer, that we had to, do all these layoffs related to it. It was awful. But Bob did just kind of dig in. He became a lot more self-preservation driven and did not feel like he was sharing with, okay, what do we need to do differently? How do we work on this? He was actually much more combative and resistant than we expected. It was very strange. I don't know what happened there, but what we found was there was this pivotal moment where Neelesh asked Bob, and we had another sales member on our team, Jamal, and he asked Bob and Jamal to come in and just tell us what your sales process is. We just want to so I could hear it. And so other members of our team could hear it. And Jamal, for instance, comes into this meeting and was just like, here's my process. This is what I've done. Let me share this with you. Let me share that with you. Yeah. Very transparent, very open. And also let me know. I would love critiques. Anything I'm doing that's not right, please share.
It was meant to be a regurgitation of the process that we follow. It's already there.
Yeah.
And so Bob's response was, Neelesh already knows what we do. Why do I have to say anything? And that's how we answer that question.
For 30 straight minutes.
Right.
30 minutes of saying,
yeah,
my process. No, I don't know why I need to share it.
Right. So we knew at that point we needed to make a change. And at that point,
you were so mad at that.
Yeah. Cause I was like, I have a process. Represent it. So at that point, we realized at that point that we have to make even more changes than we were hoping for.
Yeah.
And
so
we dug a little bit deep.
Just to be clear, you mean Bob's got to go?
Yes.
This guy who just made you 200,000 MRR from his Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, if we're talking 10-year average client life, you could do the math. He created a lot of value in his Rolodex, from his Rolodex.
And look at the parallels here. We talked earlier about how you have to let, a large customer go if they're being a total jackass. Yeah. You also have to let a high-performing salesperson go if they're being a total jackass, if I have to be honest. And I'm not saying that Bob is. He was in that moment, and he was around that moment in a way that was baffling. So you can't do that. You can't tolerate that. We endorse whatever we tolerate. And so we couldn't endorse that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Right. And on top of that, I'd read enough and I'd listened to enough podcasts and listened to enough books to know that if you want to be a successful sales organization, you can't be a charity. You have to sell to the numbers, right? Yeah. You can't have a team that's not hitting your quota quarter after quarter after quarter. And I'll be honest, I like Bob, right? I like everybody on our team. I don't hire people that I don't like. And they certainly don't stick around if I don't like them. And, we made the decision at that point to start, managing by the numbers. And the numbers weren't there. right? And so,
Yeah.
frankly, the numbers weren't there for any of the salespeople. And so and this includes outbound sales and inside sales, right? And so in September, we had to make a bunch of difficult decisions around releasing many
Wonderful people.
wonderful people at NetFriends who we did not want to let go of. But in October, I realized that I was going to have to do the same thing on my sales and customer success teams and completely shuffle everything around.
Which is extra hard to do when you're also thinking the only way out of this hole is with sales.
Right.
Yeah, right. So how do you cut your revenue? You want to keep all your revenue generating resources, but you're drinking salt water because you can't afford the revenue generating resources, and the only way to afford them is to keep them. So
It's not a good loop to be on.
Yeah.
No.
And I think Bob felt like he had us kind of over a barrel because like he knew you're not going to get rid of me. And so he soured instead of sweetened his attitude.
Yeah.
Which-
And so,
I just wanted to chime in real quick again here. I think there's a lesson for any of the listeners here. There's a couple lessons, of course. I don't mean to make these like especially these very difficult at the time, probably extremely difficult experiences. I don't want to turn them into something trite, but
sure.
in a way, you had another finite resource, which was Bob. And if I can say it this way, let me put on my like CRO hat that I'm sure you're going to get to this, but you had process. And by process, I assume what you really mean is you had infrastructure. You had tool sets, automations, you had contact records, you probably had some messaging and some sequences. So like, hey, we have levers to pull to generate opportunities. Then what you had is a person who brought a value set, but they kind of brought a resource to you, which was in some ways a finite resource. So this guy had probably cut his teeth as a young buck knocking on doors. And then he had so many doors knocked on, and Durham's not that big of a place. He knows everybody he needs to know to be able to make the money he wants to make. Now he's making all this money, and okay, great. Well, we burn through the list fast, so that's fantastic. But now what you have is another bottleneck in that your system wasn't infinitely scalable, because what you didn't have is a recipe which includes people that says, if these people execute these actions these many times, we will go get a stranger to be a customer.
Correct.
That's correct.
100%.
Yeah.
And we realized, from my perspective as the marketing side, I realized that Bob allowed me to not lean in to getting those leads, getting marketing qualified leads. He was, for me, an easy button, and gave me a way to not wake up every day with that sense of like, I need to really hustle today. I was like, oh, we got Bob, it's fine. And I think I lost about 2 years of marketing rigor and marketing focus and getting out of my comfort zone and doing harder things.
Yeah. And therefore momentum.
And And
Yeah.
I don't look at this and I don't weep into my pillow at night.
Anymore. No.
Anymore, right? But there's definitely there's a danger when you have a real A player. You get a celebrity, to use one of your phrases earlier. Sometimes it makes everyone else take a step backwards, and that includes even an owner can take a step backwards and not be as hard driven.
Yeah. But you know, the thing that we found, the thing that was missing was that we just didn't have the leads.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that was the big realization, aside from needing to reshuffle the team and figuring out who's going to fit where based on their skill sets as we saw them excelling in. Leads were the thing that we knew we needed to work on the most.
We did.
And we did. We just went whole in. And by the way, it's not like we realized it in October. We actually realized it earlier in the year, and we did all kinds of things to try to generate more leads, like try to send folks to networking events. And the thing is, we were still coming out of COVID, out of the lockdown, and some people were still skittish about going on site to networking events. And so like all the ideas we came up with were all about being in person, right? Because we were doing all the digital things we could do. We couldn't do the in-person stuff. And I even hired somebody as a BDR, like, to make cold calls. And that failed spectacularly. Probably because I've never worked in that kind of environment and I didn't appreciate the rigor that it takes.
You weren't doing the data analysis.
I weren't doing the data analysis.
Data analysis.
Sure.
Out of respect for time too, I want to make sure, Brian, if you
Yeah, well,
I want to land this plane.
I do. Well, I want to punctuate the story because that takes us up to like, okay, so you guys, you let go Bob, your system, you realize, okay, time to sort of evolve again. You went into another cocoon. You really liquefied everything. You focused on lead generation. That brings us to what's happening now. And have you, I guess, can I ask, have you recovered on a RevOps side? Have you sort of recovered from that? And have you been able to hit the next iteration, or is that still underway?
It's still underway. It's, to be honest, like this, because we're focused on organic growth, it is going to take us time. By the numbers this year, we have closed already, and this is early November when we're recording this, we've already closed over 102,000 MRR this year from January 1 onward. That represents 19 new logos, well over 20 contracts. We have two main lead gen engines that we have. We have a caller service for us. That creates a lot of volume, not very many closed sales, but it does give us many times at bat, which is great.
Yeah. Right.
We've had 4 closed sales from that out of about 21 that got to a proposal stage. Our closure rate there is fine. It's about 20%, which is good. It is about a 3 to 4% closure rate if you think of that. Like, we booked a meeting for you. So there can be a lot of meetings that are just practice sessions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. MQLs, though, so far we're at 80 MQLs, marketing qualified leads this year. Of those, 65 went to the proposal stage, and of those, 20 of them landed. So you got a really good closure rate there. So we're doing really good on the numbers.
Can you tell me just like in 15 words, what are you doing to get those MQLs? What are you using?
Okay, I got to be real sparse here.
Yeah, the simple
Great
like what
website.
Okay.
Email marketing works.
Okay.
Social media. I know I'm being pedantic here, but like social media for sure. LinkedIn ad campaigns that are structured in strata. You can't just do a single campaign. One campaign needs to lead into the next, lead into the next. Meta advertising. Holy cow, pound for pound, that generates a ton of hits. Events. Got to do the lunch and learns. And I'll tell you the real reason you do the lunch and learns, you get that sweet, delicious market development funds. Oh my gosh, it just comes right into your bank account.
Other people are paying for you to take prospects to steakhouses and bring the lunch to their office.
And do it. And by the way, it's okay. Your time to get the list, clean the list, contact those people and get them in there, to deliver it, to do the follow-up after it. That's a lot of time. So don't be shy about saying, yes, I'm going to fully saturate that market development fund amount, because your time it's money and it matters, and you should be compensated for that. Market development funds they're out there, little piles of money that all these different vendors are actually eager to spend, because you're giving them opening an avenue to customers.
You get to be an influencer.
You get to be an influencer. It's true.
So
They
first of all,
feel good.
they're not little piles, they're big piles of money. Second of all, not only are they eager to spend them, they have to spend it. They have VC, they have private equity forcing these marketing coordinators, marketing managers to give dollars out because these companies are selling channel. They can't go to the dentist office and sell them their XDR. They don't have the ability to do so. They need you to do it, and they're literally willing to pay you to go and get customers for both of you, and you're going to come out way more on top of that. $200 a seat, only 6 of it goes to them, right? But you're keeping the other, you're keeping 100 of it. So I love that you said that. Okay, so MDF,
and
social.
Each one of these is an opportunity to practice your pitch, to hone your slides, to get more content ready. I mean, all this MDF is coming at you, and it gives you more opportunities and more excuses to get in the game.
Yeah. In the end, what happens is people that show up to the lunch and learns, they have follow-up questions. And so not only did you get to practice your pitch while you were delivering the talk, but you get to pivot immediately into consultative sales versus just your typical, we have this RMM solution, we have this CDR solution, right?
Right.
You're now talking about the thing that you talked about in the gentleman in your very last interview, which is talking about the things that your customers actually care about.
Yeah.
Not about what you care about yourself.
My favorite thing about this marketing, how you're getting MQLs, marketing qualified leads. And I want you to hear this the right way. My favorite thing about your answer is that there's nothing that you just answered that is a new, shocking, twisting idea.
I do have one new shocking, twisting idea, but you're right. It's all about the normal base hits, fundamentals, if you will.
Yeah, do it. I mean, how many times have I said it? There's only 3 levers you can pull. Do the right things, do them well, do them over and over again. So hang on, should we leave them on a spicy take here? John, what's your big crazy idea?
It's a really cool idea. Okay. So we should do that because I think it's always fun. So obviously AI, we're all trying to figure out how do we figure out not just AI in marketing, but could AI assist us? So in your signature block, you've got your little Facebook icon and your X icon, yada, yada, yada. Replace those with OpenAI icon, Gemini icon, and if someone clicks on it, and you should guide them to it somewhere in your subject line, they click on it, it actually loads a prompt into that platform that is about your service, is something you've already curated, you've already confirmed that when you put that prompt in, it's going to say something like, you should get an MSP. These are the reasons. And by the way, this MSP is pretty good. Like there's ways to make the prompts get those kind of results. So it does take prep work. You got to think through it. You got to think of a good prompt. But that's what should be in your signature line.
Yeah. I love it. You know what I love about it is
cool.
It's a super good idea. No one's doing it. Email signatures, frankly, are sort of stale real estate that because people have been underutilizing it so long, it's sort of become the park bench ad, right? Because it's just like random stuff. So people are like, hey, put video or put animation in your headshot, or they're all trying to we got to make it matter. But now this is a great idea.
You also you're thinking about making the AI prompts, and you're thinking about the response back from each of these AI platforms that will sing your praises, which you also need to be thinking about because there are going to be more and more shopping going on. And we see it in our top 10 list in Google. OpenAI is feeding us clicks and links to our site. And for every click I'm getting through OpenAI has mentioned us, I don't know how many times, because most people don't click anything. They don't exit out of any of that. So I'm telling you, it's coming. And this is a way for you to possibly route the current and traffic in a positive way in your direction with intentionality. So there's a lot in that idea.
It's one of the most clever ways to have AI talk about you as a trusted source, right? So when you buy something, 9 times out of 10, you're going to buy it because you read a review or you heard about it from a trusted friend or a resource. Well, AI is quickly becoming, if not already there, a trusted source for many people, right? Mm-hmm. So how many times do you Google something and you skip past everything until you get to the AI, review of it, right? And you automatically make a decision on it most of the times. Well, that's exactly what John's idea here is going to do. It's going to put what your service is about and who you are in the words of a trusted source.
Yeah. And Brian, I'm not going to share this idea on any other interview or podcast, just so you're aware. Exclusive.
Okay. Boom. So you heard it here first. You'll only hear it here. I love it. We buried the lead here.
We did its own little sound bite.
And I love that it's self-selecting because they had to sit through an hour to get to the nug. But
the most tedious hour of their lives. No, it's kidding.
Are you guys open to people reaching out to you and asking you questions?
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay. So maybe any closing thoughts from each of you, and then just tell them how they get a hold of you.
If you are an MSP and you're doing this solo, then do yourself a favor and find somebody to do this with that you trust. Because seriously, this guy is not just a business partner. He's a friend, has become a friend. And I mean, we talk about a lot of different things, And if you're a business owner and you think that you're going to be able to just compartmentalize business from your actual life or the rest of your life, then you're sadly mistaken. And so if you want to sell a shitload of managed services, then do it with a friend.
Absolutely. You stole what I was going to say, but you also did it better. You did it better. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's it. And dude, make it a shared journey.
That's so great, you guys. Well, listen, we'll put your guys' like LinkedIn in the show notes so people can get a hold of you. Because if I'm a listener right now, I'm going to be like, how do I ask these guys questions? Statistically, you're in the high percentile of revenue for managed services. As you know, like 25% of MSPs will never get more than 5 employees, or maybe it's 40% or so. But you guys have figured something out, and then it stops working. So then you figure something else out, and then it stops working, and then you figure something else out. And the people who have figured out how to have that relationship with change over time and to not get defeated because they think that managed services is going to be passive income, because you're devastatingly incorrect if that's your assumption. You guys have figured something out, which is what it tells me you're going to keep going up until you don't want to do it anymore. And that's very exciting. So it's really cool to meet you guys. It's great to see a partnership. You have admiration for one another, which hopefully gives hope for some of the MSP owners out here who had a partnership go kind of belly up. And maybe, anyway, it's just really cool, guys. Thank you for giving me the time. And
thank you, Brian.
Yeah,
thank you.
All the best for you as you keep going.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys.